Death on the Nile finally came out. I mean, this was this supposed to drop last year, I believe? Um, at
It got
least.
moved. Its date was moved several times
Yeah.
due to COVID and
Originally,
also the Army Hammer stuff, assumingly. This has been in the can anyway for quite a long while. This was shot before the pandemic.
yeah, looks like it was originally set to be released December 20th, 2019. So it
Christ.
got rescheduled to October because of some production issues, October 2020. And then, as we all know, COVID just pushed everything back. So this has been coming for a while. I think uh, this is known to be, or this is a book. This is at least something I was aware of. Was adapted from a book,
Yeah.
an
Agatha
old
Christie,
novel
one of
by
her
Agatha
famous
Christie,
books. Yeah.
and stellar cast with this. You got a lot of up and coming actors as well as some really established people. Kenneth Branagh, and Gal Gadot, I think, are probably the two big headliners. You also mentioned Army Hammer already, and then you have a couple of other people, Letitia Wright. You get Russell Brand in a very
Yeah.
toned down role.
A
And that
surprise if you ask me. I didn't know
I
we
didn't even
realized it was
recognize
him.
him at first.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Emma Mackey,
Yeah.
which
First big sex education, non-sex education role.
great look for her. So
Annette
th-
Bening as well.
I think there's a lot of pieces here to look and say this movie should be pretty good. Did you feel like those pieces ended up in a good movie?
Yeah, overall, I enjoyed myself. I like this one more than Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express remake from 2017. That one I thought just didn't quite add enough to that story to felt a little inert watching it. That one also has a stellar cast. That's probably the most famous Agatha Christie mystery. But to see Death on the Nile, and I haven't seen the 1978 one, which is very well liked. But to get this one, I think the Who Done It is still it's still really fun. I think at the end of the day, that's just a really bankable, film scenario, film setup. The Who Done It, the mystery, and you can tell Kenneth Branagh really likes being Hercule Poirot, as he's done now in two movies. I think the movie Death on the Nile remake starts a little slow, but once you actually build up to like Poirot actually solving the crime, as it will, and having more crimes happen and all that stuff, I think that stuff's really propulsive and fun. You know, um, Visually, I think this movie's a little up and down. It was not really it was not shot in Egypt the way the '78 movie was, but um, I still enjoyed it. Definitely interesting to grapple with this, given what's happened with Army Hammer. This is definitely his last role for the foreseeable future, anyway. And his character that he's playing, uh, his character built up for his sexual prowess and his attractiveness and stuff. It's like kind of challenging to reckon with Army Hammer playing a character like that, given what's happened in his personal life, obviously. So, despite all that, I still quite enjoyed it. I thought Emma Mackey definitely made the most of her first like big non-Netflix role. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I also want to mention this is one of the first like big, I guess, bigger roles for Rose Leslie, who you know as Egret from Game of
Right.
Thrones. But um, yeah, the I didn't love this movie. I do agree. I think the second half is a lot more propulsive and interesting than the first half. I think I'm kind of left with certainly the Army Hammer stuff was a little challenging at points, but I also just don't know if I like Gal Gadot as an actress. But
She's
I feel like
definitely not too good in this movie, to be clear.
yeah, and I feel like she's kind of played pretty one note a lot. I think the last time we saw her was what Red Notice.
Yep. Hmm.
And even in that movie, she's pretty one note. I guess maybe a little more like silly and fun in that movie than she gets to be in this one. But it as like a big headliner, it's like, man, I don't know. I don't know if she has a lot of range. I do think when you start to get uh Kenneth Branagh one on one with people, or him and Tom Bateman and like Russell Brand or Ali Faisal or something like that, then it starts to get a little bit more like interesting. And um, I do not having seen the original and not knowing the story. I was a little disappointed that I figured out at the end like what was going on, and
Yep.
I felt like that was a, not that um it wasn't very surprising, the twist. But overall, I thought the second half was pretty enjoyable. So to take it for what it is, it's a movie that's been delayed a lot. Finally, kind of came out with a lot of problems
Mhm.
around it. So I think you can do worse. And this made, I think, like what 30 million or something like that. At the box office did.
Worldwide, yeah, like 12 million domestic. So the Murder on the Orient Express from Branagh was a kind of a surprise hit. Honestly, I think in a if the Death on the Nile had actually come out as intended only 2 years after Murder on the Orient Express and come out, pre-pandemic, I think it would have been a lot more successful than it's probably going to end up being. In the process, this is now also coming out post Knives Out. Knives Out just really raised the bar for whodunit mystery movies, and we're hoping Ryan Johnson can continue that with Knives Out 2 later this year on Netflix. But um, still, I think for what it is, kind of more of a throwback style adult film. I thought it was more good than bad. But yeah, there's some things to pick out, no question.
Any moments or scenes or performances that you particularly liked or want to shout out?
Yeah, I definitely liked a lot of like those interrogation scenes, as you cited, and once like more people start to die, I think like the plot like really picks up, and it's funny to think about how slow the movie starts again with like a cold open about Poirot as a young man and the origin of his mustache. It's like,
Yeah.
huh, didn't necessarily see that one coming. But
Mhm.
once we like really like get on that boat and stuff, and like it's like super lavish, but also like it's kind of like that classic trope of just getting everyone in one place and then something happens. Like,
Yeah.
I like it. Like Emma Mackey starts to get like really unhinged by the end. I quite enjoyed that, and I think just watching Poirot figure everything out, and then tell everyone at the end when they're all gathered in one place, like that stuff always just really fun.
Yeah, and we mentioned it before. I think the performance I was most surprised by was Russell Brand, much more toned down with a
Yeah,
beard, long hair, and the moment I recognized him, I just was so shocked because he really it just was so off character for him in a good way. And it was nice to think maybe he has a potential career in acting beyond being like the silly front man of like the comedies. So
yeah.
definitely liked that. Some stuff not to like, but I still recommend it. There's worse ways to spend 2 hours.